And we are live. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to my live stream. Today is a really special one. I am here with the one and only John Hammond. Yo, John, welcome to the live stream.
Hey there, Tyler. Thank you so much for letting me be here with you. This is awesome. I'm excited to hang out.
Yeah, it's so fun. And for those of you on chat, I don't have a good way to monitor everything. So if anything sounds off, looks off, tell me. I will attempt to fix it while we are live. But no one's complaining yet. We have about 100 people so far at the 3 different platforms. So I do want to let you all know as we get started. We are live right now on LinkedIn, Twitch, and YouTube. So you're welcome to join on whichever platform works best for you. But John, before we even dive into things, I just want to say thank you. I don't know if you remember this at all, but when I started my YouTube channel, I think it was almost 2 years ago, I had less than 100 subscribers and you were my first guest. I remember, like, I followed you, I watched your content, and I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna email them, because the worst case scenario, he just tells me no, or he just doesn't get back to me, which I was totally fine with. And like, you got back to me. I had 100 subscribers, more of a nobody than I am now, and you jumped on, and I think we did like a 30 or 40 minute interview. You were my first YouTube guest. So dude, first of all, just thank you for doing that, and thank you for coming back.
Well, hey, I love it. It's a blast. And I do want to absolutely encourage and totally recommend anyone want to jump in content, hey, live streaming, just getting into this whole industry and what we do, especially for cybersecurity. Look, it's just passion. It's just love. So happy to hang out no matter what.
Yeah, and the thing about you, John, that I'm sure you get all the time, but you are a genuinely nice person, which they always say don't meet your heroes, right? In any of these influencers, content creators, you never know what they're actually like till you talk to them. And so I even had that fear, like when I met you and like Heath Adams as well. When I met him, I thought, man, what if these guys are actually jerks? So what I can say about you, John, is first you did that interview, and then I happened to run into you at DEF CON. That's like when I saw you in person. We were walking through the hallway, and my friend Nate, who was with me, was like, dude, that's John Hammond. We should go talk to him. And I was like, no, we shouldn't, because I don't want to be one of those fangirls who like takes up 10 minutes of his time and talks to him. So we were just walking through the hall, but of course my friend Nate was like, hey John, and you looked over at us and you like actually recognized who I was. So I felt affirmation that you still somehow remember me, and you got back to me on this. So my first question for you though is, how do you do that? You're incredibly successful. You just surpassed 1 million subscribers on YouTube. How do you stay humble? How do you stay genuine? Like, this isn't an act. How do you do that? How do you stay the same person you are back when you were, what, null bite or root of the null? That's what I'm thinking of, root of the null. How? How did you do that?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. I guess I don't have a good answer for you. I really just think, hey, it's the community. It's just everyone trying to play their part and getting education out or doing sweet, cool research. Just being a member of the family here, and whether we call it a family one way or another, it doesn't matter. Just this whole thing that we're a part of is just a really cool thing, and I want to do right by that the best that I can. So look, it's people, it's communication, it's networking, and I think that's super important. So I'll embrace it in the best way that I can.
I love it. I do want to give a special shout out in chat. It looks like we have the Simply Cyber crew here. I know Jerry said he was
Yay!
going to host a watch party, so I think they just joined. So all of you from Simply Cyber, thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out. And for those of you in the chat, I do want to take your questions as well. So I have a bunch of questions for John I can run through, but I want to prioritize yours. So if you have questions, I want to give another special shout out to my friend Justin and Muhammad. They are monitoring the chat in the different platforms, and all the good questions they're going to send over to me. And I'm also doing my best to monitor the chat. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them as we go. But John, let's just start with some of the basics. And just to get context, you work at Huntress, which I'm sure most people know, and you are, I'm gonna get your title right, a principal security researcher. Like, first, what does that mean? What does your day-to-day look like?
Well, let me say, I am by no means deserving of the principal security researcher title. I came in as a senior, and I don't know, they slapped this other thing on there. Undeserving. They're way too nice to me, and I love the folks over at Huntress. It's really a labor of love, and it just feels really good to try to be in the front lines for chasing vulnerabilities or protecting a whole lot of what we say the 99%. And so what I get to do is sort of an interesting balance of the geeky, technical, on the keyboard work when I can dig into some malware samples, help out a lot of the SOC analysts because it's a managed SOC, managed security platform, and whenever I can, hey, dive into a lot of rapid response for new emerging vulnerabilities and stuff that we're just kind of chasing in the industry. That's a lot of fun, but I also wear another hat to do a lot of either talks or presentations or, hey, get up on the main stage or chat with reporters and try to spread the messaging just as well. I don't know, maybe a balancing act that blends a little bit of that YouTube persona, that marketing megaphone to a certain extent, but still being nerdy and on the keyboard and trying to be a practitioner through and through. So I love it. It's the best of both worlds. It's a ton of fun. But the days are thankfully flexible. They say, hey, John, you know, you're rocking what you can do. So go do that the best you can.
That's so neat. And I know a little bit about how you got connected to Huntress, but would love for you to share that because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it wasn't through a formal job application. You were already building a YouTube platform. You got connected with Huntress. So talk a little bit about that and just some advice for other people who want to get into the field and think, hey, maybe I should set up a webcam and start making videos. How has that helped you personally in your career?
Ooh, okay. So can of worms. There's a lot to it, and I'll try to speed run a little crash course. But I was, hey, trying to go through my undergrad, trying to get the education, check the box like everyone says we're supposed to do to a certain extent. And I went to the Coast Guard Academy. Now, for folks that might not be familiar, that sort of fell away from me. It's kind of slipped through my fingertips, and I didn't, hey, get across the finish line the way that we all kind of hoped that we would. So I was scrambling. I was looking around. I was trying to think of how do I get my life back in order. And I would look out across the interwebs and see people that look like they're crushing it and they're doing incredible, cool things. And I just had the thought, you know, there's this guy Kyle out on Twitter, and he's got this little Twitter picture of him looking at a Raspberry Pi at some event, really cool stuff that they were up to. And I just reached out. I sent him a cold DM or message over on Twitter and said, hey, Kyle, I know I'm this weird random stranger, but I have this YouTube channel where I try to share education and content. And if you wouldn't mind, would you just be willing to take a look at it? Let me know your thoughts. And if you think it's cool, would you be willing to share it? And that was way back in like 2018, but kind of started this amorphous internet relationship. And I hope Kyle was impressed. He thought it was cool. He's like, hey, this is phenomenal stuff that you're doing. Would really love it, and I'm happy to get the word out. So fast forward maybe 2020. He is letting me know, look, he's moving and shaking, doing incredible stuff for Huntress. The startup just landed Series A, hey, doing everything that they could. And he said, you know what, John, we're having a ton of fun. Do you want to join the party? And I was just honored and grateful because, hey, it was just scrappy, small start to, I don't know, build a relationship again with someone you just see across the internet. But it opens up opportunities and you have a little bit more networking capability when you are willing to put yourself out there like that. So to your latter question, to the end of it, yeah, what are those opportunities, things, doors you can open just by making content or showing your work? I know it feels weird. Sometimes it's embarrassing. Like I totally run into walls and make a fool of myself in a lot of videos, but you know what? It shows that you're in it. It shows that you're passionate, and I hope that is an incredible thing.
Yeah, no, you are. You're spot on. I agree wholeheartedly. Want to say hello to Husky Hacks. Matt Kiley just joined the
Oh, hey,
chat.
Matt.
I need to interview him again. He was also one of my first guests. I went through his malware analysis course on TCM Academy. Same thing, reach out to him like, dude, love your course. Can we chat? And he said yes. So Matt, one of these days I need to get you back on here as well. And we can talk all about that. But John, I don't even know if you can answer this. So if you don't want to answer this, just like plead the fifth. You don't have to talk about it. But I'm curious your end goal in the YouTube world. I shared before, and everyone knows you surpassed 1 million subscribers, but you still work a full-time, quote unquote day job. You could do YouTube full-time, I'm sure, and be uber successful at that. Is that the end goal? What is your end goal for your YouTube channel? What does that look like?
Oh, goodness, super good question, and I'm very flattered and very fortunate, truth be told, to be in the spot that I am. But I'm realizing more and more that I am finding the upper bound of what I can do with all the things that I try to juggle or the irons in the fire. We were chasing this big Screen Connect vulnerability last week, which meant that all the videos that I wanted to do for YouTube kind of had to get pushed. And we are working that into a smart, financially healthy business with, hey, some sponsorships and partnerships. And it's like, oh, I got to move all those deadlines. And now we'll have to get funneled to what was this week. And we were bantering back and forth before we went live. Yeah, there was a video every single day of the week this week. So juggling that with a daytime job means a heck of a lot of energy drinks, a lot of late nights, and not a lot of sleep. So I am trying to feel out where is the balancing act. Is there things that we could move or juggle or play a little bit of Tetris. And I think we're finding that out. But to your point, is there ever an opportunity where I just go full-time content creation? Maybe. I don't know. But I've said, and I will continue to say, I love Huntress. I don't want to, hey, jump out of that party. I really enjoy everything that we get to do there, and it would make me sad to kind of depart that. I would break my heart. So we're feeling it out, but for the future, I do want to do what we're doing. Hey, we've got content, we've got videos, we've got education material, but that is unscalable. That does not grow
Sure.
because I am the dude in front of the camera, hey, making it all happen. And if I just don't do that, if I get sick, if I'm under the weather, or if I'm on vacation, or I don't know, tied up with other stuff, everything falls apart.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, you totally know all of these certain things just as well. So I wonder, and I think on how can we grow this to some other avenues? Is that going to be, oh, courses? You know, everyone kind of chats about that. Is it going to be a product? Do I sell cheesy keyboards or like wireless mice? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm still feeling it out, but it's a lot of fun to think on it and grow because I don't know. It's an opportunity, and I totally want to chase that.
And you're recently, I don't know if it's fully live yet, but you're working on a platform with a few other kind of the bigger names in the industry. You talked about this yesterday on Simply Cyber. Is that kind of an outworking of that conversation? Is that part of like offering courses, training people? Is that how that came together?
To a certain extent, yes. And this is maybe a side effect of just doing a lot of different things in a lot of different directions. But you know, I've tried to host a lot of capture the flag competitions, like training events and exercises. So we've got a boatload of those exercises and tasks and activities to help get folks on the keyboard. And we were always wondering, like, hey, is there ever a good home for this? Could we ever have like a permanent place rather than a weekend CTF 48-hour infrastructure that lives and dies over a day or two, but something where folks could interact and play with that. Think of a Try Hack Me, think of a Hack the Box, and we love them. I absolutely love to showcase all the incredible stuff that they're up to, but understandably so, I'd like to, hey, keep them hanging out with me too in the same way. So Ben Sadegapur or Namsek and Adam Langley. Ben is running the bug bounty direction. Adam is also really well versed in a lot more of the red team and CTF pen testing directions. And hopefully I can pour in, I don't know, maybe some of that malware, maybe some of that dark web. There's just so many cool different facets. So I'm excited about that trinity to a certain extent, or the trio
Sure.
of bringing that together. It's
The dream
slow.
team.
It's in stealth mode. we're moving and shaking, but slowly because hey, we want to do that thing right, but we are having fun with it.
Super exciting. Now, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. When you were talking about your YouTube channel, you're talking about like sponsorships and business partnerships on YouTube. And I would love to hear about your balance between those things. So I'm at the point, this is more of a personal question, honestly. Like, we'll just live stream the personal question.
Sure.
I'm at a point in my YouTube channel where I've been getting sponsorship requests, and people are like, hey, like I think the biggest one, which isn't that big, was like $500 to make like a 8-minute video, sponsored video. But I turned it down because I made a draft, I sent it over to them, and they liked it, but there was like specific wording they wanted me to use. And in the video, I even shared like some more feedback, like, hey, good product, but there's would be some things I would suggest changing. And then when they got back to me, I've just noticed with sponsorships, you know, they're paying you money to do marketing. So you have to be very careful or clear about what you say. But you seem to do a good job at that. A lot of your videos aren't like a full sponsor video, but it's like, hey, this video is brought to you by so-and-so. Check out their organization, check out what they are doing. But you do have some other full sponsored videos. And I've heard you talk before, the tough part about finding a balance for that, where your YouTube channel isn't all like, this is a marketing by John Hammond, but instead actually educational content, but you still need sponsored videos because that's how you pay the bills. So how have you wrestled with that, and what kind of balance are you finding now?
Oh my goodness, such a good question. And man, there's a whole lot to run down. You're totally right, 1,000%. Both of us, I think all of us want to do right. And like, look, I only want to showcase and sing the praises of a product or service that I just genuinely like. I think is really cool. I use it or I want to use it. And I think I see all the potential and the incredible capability of that. I think we've done a really good job about showcasing stuff that I just think is really cool. So I wouldn't feel, I don't feel bad about putting that in to a certain extent, but I am starting to see a little bit more of some disgruntled viewership or comments that can identify and see, hey, maybe are we touching the hot stove and holding our hand there for too
Sure.
long on that line. Um, it, that is a tough thing to wrestle with, just as you mentioned, and we're trying to feel that out. Um, I I know that it's necessary for, again, financially healthy investment and an initiative, but I hope that it's clear that that's what I'd like to do, to be able to keep doing this as frequently as I do. And man, yeah, I don't. I struggle with that one a lot personally, because I don't want to be a walking billboard. I don't want to be a commercial. I don't mean to do that, and I've never had that intent. But we're trying a couple new things to make that a little bit more clear and apparent. And that, look, yeah, it makes sense that we're going to be paid for the work that we do, because hopefully you do get paid for the work that you love to do. That's the ideal state.
Yeah.
And if I may, I'd love to dance with you in this as a fellow creator, because if you look at any big YouTuber or content creator,
Hmm.
they're sponsored. They have sponsorships. Every video is going to have an ad placement, because that's just how they do what they do. But I don't think in our niche, which is very weird to say, I don't mean to zoom in on this, but in the realm of cybersecurity, it's weird to, hey, have maybe an ad placement, or it's just not as easily accepted as someone, hey, on a Twitch streamer playing video games. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm sponsored by Rocket Money. Go check out HyperX, Opera browser. Uh,
That was
it's
good
just
ad
not the
placement right
norm.
there. Hopefully you got
Sorry,
paid for
shit.
those 3 brand names. Like, very good. I'm just playing.
Yeah. But to a certain extent, I think it is not yet normalized for content creators and what we do to, I don't know, have that growth, that professionalism or maturity point in what they're up to. So I don't know. I'm super bad at answering this question, but I hope there was some insight there for you.
Yeah, I found that helpful. Hopefully other people found it helpful, or at least interesting. This is a totally off the wall question, not even technical, but I think I was watching something by Network Chuck, and you and him got to go to like the Mr. Beast headquarters. Is that correct? Do I have my details right?
Yes,
What was that
yes.
like? Like, did you get to meet him? What was that experience like? Because you talk about big YouTubers, right? He's at the top of the list, the one and
Top
only
of the
Mr.
top.
Beast. What was that like?
So thank you for asking. Network Chuck had this opportunity to kind of do essentially consulting, and it boils down to like, hey, how can we help you all with your IT infrastructure, with your networking, with your security? So I'm flattered Network Chuck thought of me and said John would be a really strong arm for the cybersecurity component. So I got to go, and I got to go to the Mr. Beast headquarters, and walk around the set and meet some of the people. Um, it breaks my heart though, because Jimmy, right, Mr. Beast himself, was sick during that time, so he didn't go into the office. But we did get to go on a Discord call, and we did get to watch his new upcoming video at the time and go review his thumbnails along with him. So that was
Oh,
still
cool.
kind of cool. But it was like a once in a lifetime opportunity, and still kind of blows my mind, because again, you think of like the stuff that we do, like, hey, cruising through some CTF challenges or looking through some programming, that's not normally in the mix with the biggest 250 million subscriber YouTube channel in the world. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, incredible opportunity, and just again something I'm grateful for with what we get to do.
Yeah, amazing. Hey, for those of you in chat, I think I saw some questions come in. I promise you I will eventually get to your questions, and maybe I'll get to them. But I'll do my best. But I want to jump back to the technical side of it. You shared before ConnectWise. That kind of blew up as your team was hunting that. And you pulled an all-nighter on that. I remember like when Log4j or Log4, depending on who you don't want to upset, when that came out, you pulled an all-nighter, and I think you had like a Minecraft POC video that you came out with. But you've done these all-nighters pretty regularly, looking for CVEs. Now, when I think of all-nighters, I remember, being a high schooler and like going to a gaming cafe and doing an all-nighter there. Not usually doing an all-nighter, reading code and hunting down vulnerabilities without a bunch of energy drinks like what you're talking about. Can you guide us through? ConnectWise is the most recent one. I'm just curious what that evening was like. You find out about the CVE. Huntress is researching it. Is there like a team at Huntress, like you and a few others, that are like, all right, we're gonna pull an all-nighter. We're gonna hunt this down. We're gonna create a POC. What is that experience actually like for you as the person, like literally staying up late into the hours, probably multiple nights in a row to do that?
Yeah. Um, So pulling back the curtain, going a little bit behind the scenes, there is like a Slack huddle or a Zoom room that's kind of spun up, and it's essentially sort of a war room, right? Because you got a lot of the researchers, the folks digging into the code, maybe cutting up, trying to find the vulnerability. A lot of the detection engineers, the folks that want to understand, look, what are the artifacts? Are there indicators of compromise? Are there things we can do to mitigate this? How can we help folks patch? There are a whole lot of different directions and roads to go down, which is why we try to take it seriously. So, because in the moment, it feels like this is important, this is critical, this is vital work, and it feels really good when we can help the community with like actionable info, stuff that hopefully provides value rather than saying, hey, we're monitoring it and that's it. So, we want to dig in, we want to get the tactical details. And that's why we, yeah, burn the midnight oil, start burning at both ends, cruising whatever energy drinks and all. And I joke and I make light of it, but I gotta say it's like it's from the team effort from the folks that are crazy and willing to dig in. In the moment, you get a certain amount of adrenaline, which is why, hey, I don't have any issue staying up crazy late. Maybe that'll burn me out at some point. Maybe that'll sizzle out. But for now, I think it is something that I want to chase because it's so fulfilling when we get to see it come to life.
Yeah, that's so neat. And I do just want to say for all of you joining live, we are doing a TCM Academy giveaway, just announcing that again. John, this is maybe my biggest live stream or second biggest. I think we're at like 230 or 40 people,
Heck
which
yeah.
for you is tiny. For me, that's like huge, dude. So thank you again for taking the time to hang out across the different platforms. So y'all hanging around for that. That'll be at the end because I'm going to make you stay on until the end before you get that giveaway information. But one thing you shared, I remember I was at DEF CON and I was in the red team village room. I'm sure you remember this, where it was like DEF CON was rough as far as lines go, and even the red team village, it was like we were sardines in there, but you were up at the front. And one interesting story you shared is in the earlier days when you would do that kind of research and you release POCs, you've had at least one time where an organization got hacked and they called you because your name was in the POC, in the CVE, like your name was right there. How have you handled that? How have you handled the ethics behind that? We won't hash out the entire conversation you had a while ago about ethics. That would take, the next 3 hours to do that. But how are you handling the ethics of that right now personally? And how does Huntress handle that as an organization?
Ooh. So, yeah, for another quick crash course context, and I don't mean to dig into it all too much because I know it's sometimes a spicy conversation. Everyone has different opinions on the ethics and offensive security tooling with 0 days and end days and proof of concept exploits, blah blah blah. Um, I feel like that I have, again, using the phrase, had touched the hot stove because I wanted in the moment to flaunt and think it's cool. Like, look at this sweet code that I wrote to exploit this new vulnerability. And I wanted the internet points. And this is just me, right? This is just John, knowing that, oh, I have this silly YouTube channel. Like the clout and the bragging rights just feels kind of cool. And I'll be the first to admit that. I think that's kind of a human trait to a certain extent. But when I got to see a little bit more of the potential damage that could come from that, it was just a little gut wrenching because my name is in the eventlet's logs. My
That's
name is
crazy,
the
dude.
artifact. And I was like, oh my Lord, my goodness.
Like a Yara rule for John Hammond. Like find John Hammond, and if it's in your system, you have been compromised.
And maybe not everyone has that visceral moment or that firsthand experience, or maybe not everyone is stupid enough to put their name in the exploit. But it was just enough to be like, I don't want to do that again, or I want to be smarter to try not to do that again. So I think I hope to a certain extent that maybe maturing and just understanding and acknowledging that stuff, that world, that realm, and the things that you don't always think about. This is a story that I really like to tell just for the sake of the exposure and getting that in for like awareness out there. Because students, because hey, individuals that are wanting to get into this industry, it's not something that you think about all the time. But when you start to do good work or when you start to do something that has an impact to a certain extent, right? Uh, Gerald Auger, the other day said, look, great power comes great responsibility, that cheesy statement, but it's
Yeah.
something to keep in the back of your mind. So I've touched the hot stove and I just want to be careful to not do it again.
Yeah, that's a good call. And speaking of kind of the more malicious side of things, you have a unique vantage point, I think, into how threat actors think. Of course, at Huntress, with your work there, threat hunting, tracing them down. But even on your YouTube channel, you are constantly showing off some underground forums, some dark web type stuff, some Telegram channels about hackers and about malware and all that good stuff. I'm curious, from your perspective, what is a standard profile of your typical threat actor? Is it just a script kiddie teenager firing off scripts? Are they actually advanced hackers who know how to legit code and know how to do more than just run, SQL map? What is your feel on your general threat actor out there today?
Um, I will say that the elite, the hardcore, the complicated, and the super advanced, whatever bucket you put that in, oh, a nation state actor, APT, whatever, that's a real thing. Those exist. That I'm not going to deny. Hey, that's a thing. I think the majority, there is a lot of what we might call run of the mill, sure, script kiddie if we use that branding term, but just folks that will spray and pray, kind of, hey, opportunistic, get whatever they can with an exploit they pull off the shelf. They're not writing something of their own, blah, blah, blah. And those, you kind of get the silly picture of, hey, maybe a teenager disgruntled in the basement, I don't know, wearing the hacker hoodie because they think it's cool. Granted, we're both doing
We
it.
both are. You're not a hacker if
We're
you don't have a black
culprit.
hoodie on. Let's just be
Yeah.
real.
But Katie Nichols, if folks aren't familiar, hey, an incredible individual. I think she's still over at Red Canary and one of the SANS instructors. And she made a joke at one point that APT, which the acronym you normally hear for Advanced Persistent Threat, it's maybe sometimes Advanced Persistent Teenager because, hey, they're doing damage and wreaking havoc just as well.
Absolutely. I do want to jump to a question in chat. Knox Lumens had a really good question. Even Jerry said great question, so I might as well go to it. And I was going to ask this later on. I don't want to miss it. So Knox Lumens over on YouTube said, do you have a family or significant other? If so, how do you handle spending enough time with them and devoting enough time to learning, researching, testing, building, creating, literally everything you do? What's the balance?
Yeah, and thank you. Great question. I live with my girlfriend. We've been together for 8 years now, which is kind of wild. So, committed, really loving, dedicated relationship, but not married and no kids. So, understandably, that takes some responsibility that most folks tend to have, obligations and commitments out of the picture. And I'm moving slow to tackle that, right? That will be a big change in my life when the time comes. But understanding that is something that folks balance. I still try to work hard and push out the best much as I can. And thankfully, my partner is very understanding of that and really supportive. She's also working hard with the work that she does. She's also in cybersecurity, so it helps kind of balance out, and we can have conversations and know what we're talking about. We actually had an interesting conversation, and it's maybe cutesy, but we kind of wondered, would we ever be able to be with someone that doesn't know the ins and outs of what we do in the industry? Are we so far gone at this point? Has it consumed so much of our lives that we just wouldn't be able to, like, could I date a nurse? But no, it is just the support and the transparency. And if we're able to just spend time together, quality time, maybe an hour or two or three at the end of the day, and focus on vacation and time together, that's really the most important thing in how we kind of balance out running hard and fast like we do.
That's good. And the only thing I would add is I probably have a different perspective, John, because I do have a wife and 2 young kids and work full time as a pen tester. So probably a little bit of a different world there, but I think you're spot on. The only advice I would give those who watching is we're all in different seasons of life, right? And I think the cheesy statement is, comparison is the thief of joy or steals your joy along those lines. So like when I started, I tried to compare myself to like the John Hammonds of the world or the Heath Adams of the world, but you really can't compare yourself. I know it's cheesy to say that, but we all have different seasons, different time commitments. So what looks like a good balance for John probably isn't a good balance for you. And what looks like a good balance for me also isn't a good balance for John or somebody else. So a big part of that, for those of you having that same question, is figuring it out yourself as you experiment. And there was this guy named Tyler Ramsbey who did a really cool talk at Simply CyberCon about mental health, where he spent about 30 minutes talking about that and sharing some of my own story of going through therapy and wrestling with those things. But I would love to keep that conversation here, John, because mental health is something a lot of people give lip service to, but that's all it is. Like, yeah, mental health is good, focus on it, but they don't go beyond that. So I'm curious if you're willing to share. Have you ever struggled with burnout, depression? Have you gone to therapy? Do you find that stuff helpful? Like, are you willing to talk about that? And if so, would love to get your thoughts.
Of course. Yeah, I'm an open book. More than happy to chat. There's a joke, and I think David Alves Webb is really good at kind of always reminding me, because at one point I said, and I said this half as a joke, half serious, I eat burnout for breakfast. It's like, look, we're just running so fast, we're burning out bright, and we're going to keep cruising because I don't want it to slow me down. I use that as motivation to, like, look, we'll keep breaking through new walls. And that's the stuff that I try to arm myself with to hype me up and to keep moving. But I acknowledge, look, sometimes you hit the wall and you can't power through it. What I try to do, and candidly, like fully to honesty, I'll go take a break and I'll walk the dogs. I don't know, just maybe get a drink out of the fridge, take a cold shower, something's. But when I need to veg out, when I need to let my mind like completely relax, and that happens maybe at a day by day basis. I'm like, we all need to chill out after work at the end of the day. I'll play some video games. Hey, I'll little Super Smash Brothers. I played Power World. I was excited about that. Looking forward to the new Pokemon
the Pokemon
game.
machine guns, yeah.
And I'm okay right now with letting myself take that time to save my mental health and to slow down. I will say, however, when we look at everything that a lot of us do, the incredible folks that try to keep churning out great work, a lot of folks will say, like, there are things that you could also do that will replace maybe video games, because that is like the lowest value thing. Like, if we were to keep chipping away at our YouTube channel, or if we were to keep researching, or if we were to write some new code and tools and develop stuff, like, that has value. And maybe you can find some that takes less brain power than what takes the most expensive effort.
Sure.
But in my mind, maybe video games are like real low. That's when you want to veg out and not let your mind have to think. So I'm wondering if I can still rip and replace that. It's all stuff we think about, and I know you think about, and I know maybe everyone listening in probably thinks about too. So.
Yeah, that's good. All right, I want to jump back now to a few more technical questions before we wrap up. Just want to let you guys know we're going to go about 10 more minutes. Want to be respectful of John's time, as usual. And like many of us, he has a busy schedule, and he's back-to-back with things. I am, too. I had a pen test debrief right before this interview. So we will be wrapping up in about 10 minutes. But, John, one thing that I've heard you say, and I think your YouTube channel does a good job of this, is you said, I may have the quote wrong, but you want to make blue team sexy. Because when it comes to red team or pen testers, like I'm a pen tester, people hear that and they're automatically like, whoa, that's cool, you get paid to hack stuff. And yeah, I do. It is a lot of fun. There's more than just hacking stuff when it's working with clients and writing reports, but your goal is to make blue team sexy. Let's talk about that. First, why do you think blue team isn't sexy? Because that statement implies it is not, generally speaking.
Ooh, okay. So maybe I don't know, maybe I'll get some pitchforks and angry comments for this, but I think that there may be a stigma, there might be a stereotype that a lot of that defensive work is boring, dull, droning through logs, just kind of scrolling through Wireshark network traffic or all these things all the telemetry, and it's just a fire hose of data. And that sometimes is dull and dreary and not fun. It's not cool. It's not neat or sexy. You're not firing off an exploit to, hey, pop a new shell and do your privilege escalation like the red team end of it. So I'd like, the best way that I can, to try to showcase and understand, hey, how can we make that better? How can we make that more fun? And how can we expand that? Because there's so much more to that defensive work on the blue team side. Like, look, can we do that detection engineering, ripping out YAR rules, cruising through Sigma rules? Can we do some of that threat hunting? Get a little bit smarter in the SIEM solution that we're using, or that threat hunting that we do. And what about that cyber threat intelligence? Hey, what are those actors doing? That's all still part of just knowing the adversary and maybe sometimes going against offense in the case. Does that sort of answer your question? I don't know. What do you think?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it does. And I was actually blue team before I became a pen tester, not for long. I was like a senior analyst for, I don't know, 8 months, but just doing vulnerability management, right? So Nessa scans, and then usually like writing a PowerShell script that would be deployed via SCCM and, get kind of those low hanging bugs like unquoted service paths and things along those lines. But I think you're spot on. Like being a pen tester, often when you talk to someone, let's say if we take our typical college student, maybe going for a 2-year program or a 4-year program, or just studying for the A plus, Network plus, Security plus, you ask them, hey, what do you want to do? Like once you graduate, what do you want to do? And it's always like, I want to be a hacker. I want to be a pen tester. But the challenge there is pen testing is a cool gig, but there's a lot more blue team. And arguably, blue team is in some ways the more important. I'm not defending critical infrastructure. I might hack the critical infrastructure and tell the blue team like, hey, you should fix it this way, but I'm not the one on call. I'm not waking up. I'm not working throughout the night because I'm not responding. I'm attacking, but obviously in a legal way. So I just love that. I love that your YouTube channel highlights some of those blue team side of things, that threat hunting side of things, which is a missing component, I think, overall in content creation. So all that to say, I think you're doing it right. I think you're making blue team sexy. So congratulations on doing all that. One of the big questions people ask is AI, and I know people in chat have a question about AI. How do you see AI affecting the threat landscape in the next 5 to 10 years? Is it just going to be more sophisticated phishing emails? What does that look like from your perspective as a threat researcher at Huntress and just the own content you create?
Ooh, okay. AI is another hot topic, but personally, and this is just John, right? Just kind of my opinion. I have not drank the Kool-Aid yet. I see where AI is incredible and it's phenomenal and it's rapid innovation and fantastic new stuff that we could do with technology. But I do see that as something that really just supplements and kind of augments what we do as people, as the practitioners or experts or folks in the mix. We kind of still need to be the final veto or decision maker or the final say. I don't think I would not feel comfortable putting that off to whatever robot or automated thing yet. If we talk about it in the cybersecurity sense, I think it'll be really, really cool for defense because baselining and benchmarks can be incredible with that machine learning capability and AI. But on the offense side, I would lean into, truthfully, just a lot more generated phishing emails, deepfake AI, scam stuff to a certain extent, social engineering, but trying to find some elite 0 days or exploits, you need to feed it data. It's not going to just pull out of thin air and now suddenly have the Nostradamus crystal ball to see, I know there's a vulnerability. It needs training data. It needs to have things that it knows that we as people have to feed it, and we need to get that to begin with, which means that we still need to do all the reverse engineering, disassembly, decompilation, and those steps. So that is, in my mind, I'm not going to see it as some, oh my goodness, new incredible thing for the end of what we do for work. I don't think AI will take our jobs quite yet, if it does to begin with. So I don't know. Maybe that's a lukewarm take.
I agree. I think, AI is a good tool, but it's not going to replace, especially pen testers or security researchers. It can only do so much. Even now, I don't know if you've done this at all, John, but I suck at creating thumbnails, so I try to get ChatGPT to make them for me, like GPT 4.0, and it can't spell. It cannot spell in a picture. Like, hey, create a picture that says cybersecurity, and it's like CIBBBERSCRTY. I'm like, bro, my 7-year-old can spell better than AI, at least in a picture. So it's anyone who thinks it's super advanced, tell it to make you an image that spells just one simple word, and it fails miserably. I don't think we want that to be the thing doing pen test for a client or doing threat hunting that's defending critical infrastructure, anything along those lines.
If I may say, I think those are hilarious, though. I love seeing the stupid, goofy, like weird mistakes that AI makes. I just think it's the funniest thing in the world.
It's amazing. And hey, y'all, we are about to wrap up. So let's talk about the giveaway. And then I have one final question for John. But here's how the giveaway is going to work. I have this super secure and fancy software called the Google form. And in this Google form, it's going to ask you just to fill out your Discord and your email. And what I will do is, this is only going to be open for 5 minutes. So you have 5 minutes to fill this out. I'm going to close it out. So only those in the live stream right now will be eligible for this giveaway. And once again, we are giving away, thanks to TCM Security, one-year subscription to the Academy, which is a $300 value, and 3 one-month subscriptions, which is a $30 value each. So to be eligible, I'm going to drop this link right now in all 3 platforms, and hopefully it went through. There we go. So there is the Google form. I will do the drawing probably this evening, y'all. I'll jump back on Twitch, LinkedIn, YouTube around 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, or basically whenever I can get my kids to bed. Actually, my daughter's in Girl Scouts. I think we have a cookie booth tonight, so it might be a little bit later after I'm done selling Girl Scout cookies. But I'll jump back on, and we'll do that drawing just for those who are here for the live stream. But okay, John, one final question for you before we sign off. What advice would you offer Root of the Null, when Root of the Null was first getting started 10 years ago, making those coding, talking videos? What advice would you offer?
Oh, that's a very good question, because you normally hear like, hey, what advice do you give to others, but not often what's the advice you give to yourself. The one that I think sticks out to me is keep doing it. You know, like don't give up. Don't like keep chasing this thing. Even in the moment, if you feel like, look, this isn't working out the way that I thought it would, it isn't shaking up to be all that I thought it was going to be. And maybe that'll resonate with folks, maybe in a similar situation. Just, you have no idea what opportunities could come from it if you keep at it. And when you are chipping away, maybe burning the midnight oil, hey, maybe working hard with those energy drinks. And another joke here, but it's really, really cool when things start to come to life, and then you see that flower just start to blossom, and then you keep watering it, because it's a really fulfilling and passionate and fun thing. So maybe that's the number one advice I would have given to my younger self, is like, hey, you don't know what's going to come. So keep doing what you're doing.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you, John, for sharing. Someone in chat just asked, do we have to be on the stream this evening for the reward? No, you don't. So if you can't join whenever I'm done selling Girl Scout cookies, because I don't even know when I'm going to be done, totally fine. You only have to be in this stream. I will contact you via email if you win. You'll have 1 week to get back to me. If you don't get back to me, I'll just select a new winner. So fill that out. Yep, I will reach out to you personally and get you connected with TCM Security's team and get those giveaways done. But hey, John, thank you again so much, dude, for taking the time to hang out all the way back when I had 100 subscribers, and now today to have this conversation, to share your experience, and to let the community continue to hear from you. So, John, thank you again.
Well, hey, my friend, right back at you. It's always a great time to get together, and I'm looking forward to seeing you, whether it's DEF CON, whether it's the next event. We'll catch up soon.
I love it. Thank you, John. All of you watching, thank you again for taking the time out of your day to hang out with us. Hope you found something useful. Hope you found something helpful. And hey, y'all, I will see you guys in the next one. See ya.